like to do is just get in my, base layer of just kind of my default grass. So I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff here, and I'm just going to use my default grass. I believe it's this stuff here. So I'm just going to check some boxes here, make sure this is the stuff I want. Paint a little in here and see if that's right. I think that is the correct grass here. So now it's time to adjust some settings on these. So on each one of these, I'm going to go down and I'm going to deselect align to normal. So I might be able to select a bunch here. Yeah, so I'll just select all of these and uncheck align to normal. And then I'm also going to adjust the scaling. So I'm going to say minimum scale of maybe 2 and a maximum scale of 2.5. And I'll paint some of that in, and that looks actually pretty decent. So I think that's some pretty good scaling there. Yeah, I think that'll work out pretty nicely. Might even be able to bring the density down a little bit on that. But I think for now I'll just stick with this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this stuff all up in here in all the areas where I have kind of my grass material. And then, we'll go back through and get a bit more intricate with things and a little bit more detailed. But I think it's good to just start with a base layer of everything you need before getting too worked up in the details. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get too close to the rocks and stuff. I'll just get into those a bit closer a little later on. Once I go and do a little touch-up stuff. And we'll probably end up bringing the density on this all down, since we are going to be adding in other foliage on top of this. But for now, since my computer can handle it, I'm just going to paint plenty in here. All right, so I've got all the major areas painted here, and I think now it's time to get a little bit more detailed here. I'm going to bring down the size of my brush down maybe like 200 here, and just go in and get all these areas directly, like around the paths and stuff. I'll even bring down my density a little bit here, since it's actually lagging a little bit. A little more than I'd like to be. But as you can see, it's really starting to take shape, even just with this little bit of a very rudimentary, basic foliage applied to this. And as we continue, it's going to really start to come together. Got a couple path areas here that are kind of covered up, so I'll just erase the foliage from those spots. Just going around the rocks here. Getting in all these kind of random, tighter areas. And a lot of this I might end up erasing and replacing with some of the dry, dead grass. But, once again, just want to get something in now, and then just work on making those constant improvements over time. All right, so I've just finished going around all of the paths and everything, and just getting this initial layer of grass in. And now it is time to, I think probably time to hop in here and probably lower the density. And then in some of the less dense areas, I'll put in some larger pieces of foliage to help fill it back in. So let's just get started by first, let's deselect all of that other grass there, or actually no. So let's first just start out here by grabbing the erase density. I'm just going to bring this to, I believe, maybe like 0.75 or so. I'll bring my brush size up a ways and do a quick test here. See how that looks. That's a little too sparse, so let's try maybe something more like 0.3, because we only want to get rid of a little bit here. I think that'll be decent for this area. So we'll make this area a little less dense. Maybe make that area a little less dense. And then maybe up here too. Kind of like so. And then in those three areas, let's now fill in with some of these other plants. So let's grab these here and make all of these active by just hitting the checkbox. And I'm going to disable align to normal. I'll just reset average normal there. And now let's bring the brush size down a bit, as well as the erase density, and let's just do a test here and see how that looks for, scale wise and all. And I think we could probably bring the max size for these up a little bit. So if I'm in here, actually no, it's probably pretty good. So we'll stick with this, and we'll just paint in this area here. I'm gonna try and specifically go here where we lowered the density of the other grass. Kind of like so. That looks good. Helps break up kind of the color there. And then we'll fill in this area here as well. I might even bring up, I'm going to bring in my erase density here and get rid of some of this. And since we don't want too much going on, so I'll bring down my my paint density here as well for this part. And just paint in some of this. Maybe throw in a little up here too, why not? And just throw some in a couple random areas. Kind of like so. It's looking quite nice. So let's scroll down and find some of our dry grass here. So we got some of these. Let's select these and go down to the beach here and see how these look. Looks like we might have some other stuff. Oh yeah, still got a bunch of my other stuff selected here. So I'm just gonna make sure that that's all unselected. And now let's paint on here again. Yeah. So this is what I'm looking for. Just kind of some nice dry grass. Yeah, it's just loading in there. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'll put some of these probably around kind of the edges of the beach and up here, and kind of in some of the dry rocky areas as well. So I'll just go up here, and I'm gonna bring my my brush size down a ways. Maybe not quite that much. I'll go for like 200. And we'll start painting some of this stuff in, kind of just along the edges. And I'll hit play here, see how this looks. Honestly, not bad. I think I kind of like that. Can bring some in down here, kind of along the edges of the rocks and stuff. Just add a little more detail. Even put a little bit on top of the rocks. I'll also scale these up a bit. So what I'll do is I'll go down to my, where's it at? Here it is, scale. I'm just going to do the same scaling that I did for the other grass, which is a minimum of 2, a maximum of 2.5 there. And since these are larger now, I can bring my paint density down just a bit here. Add some in throughout here. You can see it's much larger now, but I think I kind of like it at that size. I think it's pretty decent. Add a little bit up in here.